Hello and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon video with me, Bubblebox, and today we're going to have a look at the Swedish units for the new DLC number 3. I haven't played these a great deal. I've actually played against them more than with them because it's really hard to get a game at the in multiplayer at the moment if you're playing with the new Scandinavian units, because everyone wants to play them, of course, because it's a new DLC. So I find myself playing more as Red 4, so just so that I can get a couple of games in. So I've come up against a lot of these units, which is probably a good thing when I'm trying to review them, more than I've actually played them. Also, bear in mind when we go through the new units for this new Swedish units for the DLC number 3, that all the stats and that are likely to be tweaked. Some more and some less tweaked, I guess, in January when they bring the DLC 3 out for real, because this is of course a beta test for the Scandinavian units, and some of these units, especially well, a few of the units are quite OP in my opinion, but we'll have a look at those as we go through them. Not so much for the Swedish, but certainly for a couple of the other units for the other nations. But we'll start off with the logistics. With the logistics, we've got a new command, an armoured vehicle, an infantry fighting vehicle, or an infantry fighting vehicle, I guess, that's armoured to a decent extent, with 4 front, 3 side, 2 back and 2 top, which is what you definitely want in a command vehicle. It's also got a a very nice autocannon, the Bofors L70, which can shoot at ground units and helicopters, so very much able to protect itself, especially if it's sitting at the back in a forest somewhere and someone sneaks some units or a helicopter around. It's able to defend itself, especially with this nice accuracy of 30%. And it can fire on the move if it's trying to get itself out of a difficult situation. It's even got AP power on that auto cannon as well. Speed's decent. We'll get to its place. Autonomy is not fantastic, but hey, again, you know, do you want to spend that much money on an armed CV? It's up to you. It's your choice. Next new unit is the P93 Scania. So they've now got 2 logistics vehicles, the Scania and the Amphibial. Now I thought the Amphibial was already one of the Swedish units, or in the patch notes on the forum it's got this as a new unit, but I'm sure this isn't a new unit. I think it's just the Scania that's the new unit. But basically the Scania carries more supply than the Amphibial, but the advantage of the Amphibial is, of course, as its name suggests, it is amphibious. You can take it across rivers and sneak it into different places where the enemy can't see you, sneaking it to resupply your units. So I personally would probably still stick with the Amphibial as my sort of as my sort of transport on the road or on the ground for the Swedish, mainly because of its amphibious nature, even though you might be a little bit less on the supply front overall. I haven't done the calculation, but I guess that would be the case. That would be the trade-off there. And that's about it for the logistics. If we move on and we'll have a look at the new infantry, we'll start off with the Panzers. Where are they? Oh, let's unpin that. Panzers 90s. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this completely incorrectly, and this is kind of an upgrade of the Panzer Scrites, so we'll bring those up as well, so pin those, and this is the new one, the Panzer Scrite 90. Strength of 10, so this is kind of a standard rifle unit really. They've got well, I'm not sure if it's a big upgrade on the Panzer Scrites for these, looking at them, to be honest. They've actually got the main difference appears to be the rocket launcher, which has a better AP, well, very slightly better AP power, but the accuracy is quite a way down actually. I'm not sure if that's actually a mistake on the stats or not. The rest of it, AK4 the same machine gun, I think, yeah, pretty much everything. They're regular. So the only difference is this. So I think I'll probably stick with the normal one actually because of the accuracy. Just for that extra 1 point AP power. Doesn't seem that powerful. They're both trained as regular. So that's a new unit. Maybe it'll need a little bit of rebalancing. Perhaps put the price up by 5 and give it a better accuracy to encourage people to take the new Panzers 90. Not sure about that one. As far we'll have a look at the might make a difference on the availability. So the Panzers 90, you get 21 trained and hardened 16. That's quite a lot. And the normal Panzers, which has always been in the game, you get 21 and 16 as well. So yeah, not much of a big difference there. So moving on, the Jagara 90s. Again, apologies for my terrible Swedish pronunciation. And these guys look pretty decent. I quite like these Jagara, and again an upgrade I guess to pin those of the normal Jagara. They're the same price again. Let's check this out again. They've got this time they have got a better AP power on their rocket launcher. Although again, look, the accuracy down once again. So again, a little bit of a trade-off. I guess maybe that is on purpose then, but maybe you should just go with the normal ones. Very fast, of course. These are elite. They move pretty decent across the ground, 30 kilometers per hour, so good for putting through trees and stuff like that. And trying to sneak around the back of the enemy, sniping CVs and maybe getting side back shots on tanks or command vehicles and stuff like that, I guess. But pretty decent. Prototype. The Jagara normal one isn't actually a prototype, whereas the Jagara 90s are a prototype, so also that might be beared in mind. So special forces, pretty decent. Availability, the new one 8 and 5, and the older one, the normal Jagarans, where have they gone? Lost them. Over here, right. 8 and 5. Okay. So pretty much the same again. Alright, so moving on, we've got these Norrlands Jager. Gosh, I can't pronounce these Swedish names. Norrlands Jagaras. Here. Shock light infantry, so kind of fire support units. I don't know if they really had a fire support unit before. I don't think they did. Again, I haven't really played these nations very much, mainly because they were quite poor until this new DLC when they've got lots of nice new units. So of course they're going to be played much more now. The main thing here is this PVPJ1111M77 thing. Decent range, okay, 1575, not mega expensive at 30. Accuracy isn't good. AP power not fantastic either. Really only good for, as I said, fire support, so supporting other infantry. And at 30 points, it's quite an expensive fire support unit as well, I reckon. But they do have a strength of 15, I've just noticed that, and a speed of 30, and they are shock troops as well, so, and close quarters combat. Not sure about that one. I think I'd have to test that one out to see just how good it is, but with a strength of 15, I think that probably won't be too shabby, but we'd have to check that out, and again, I'll leave that up to you as to whether you think that's a good unit or not. Finally, in the new infantry, we've got these Skorpion Jaras. These are basically nothing too special, really. 15 points. They are a basic napalm infantry. Speed very slow. Strength 10. Training regular. So yeah, just your basic. Again, supporting other infantry, perhaps in buildings or in trees and stuff like that. But I wouldn't send them there on their own because they're going to get mullered, basically. Only 15 points though. But a last little addition, I don't think they had any of those types of napalm units in their deck before, but now they have got those as well. Now the support. Now the support is really interesting. They've got a lot of new support units, and we'll start with the big artillery piece, the BKAN, or the BKAN 1C, an upgrade of the BKAN 1A. And what's improved? Well, let's have a look. The dispersion is certainly improved. All the other stats, movement and everything looks about the same. armor looks about the same. Yeah, so really it's the dispersion, range, HE power, everything else is pretty much the same. It's got its little machine gun. So you're paying an extra 10 points for a much more accurate weapon, pretty much. So do you want to pay that extra? You probably want to pay that extra 1 point. It's also got 14 rounds to start with, so you won't need to start gobbling your fob away until you run out of your 14 rounds. So pretty decent artillery piece they've got there now. Much more accurate. It's going to make it a much more effective unit in the Swedish deck. Now the next unit I'm really quite excited about. It's a really nice mortar, and it is a really nice mortar, and I've played against the Swedish or rather the Scandinavian decks, and everyone gets the Amos because it's got this like really fast rate of fire for a mortar, or well, I wouldn't say fast rate, it just fires a lot of ordnance all at once. It's got a rate of 9 rounds per minute, but it's got twin barrels, so it fires kind of 2 shots at a time. Really tight dispersion as well, really lays down a lot of fire on the area, and has also got a range of 7,700. It's not too bad speed wise, so you can fire it really quickly, get it out of there into its next position. Really nice unit. It's got a bit of armor as well, so if you do get any anti-battery fire, then it can take a bit of a hit as well. It's also amphibious, so you can take it across the water. I reckon everyone's going to be having this thing in their deck. Probably one of the best mortars in the game now. It is one of the most expensive mortars in the game, but probably worth every penny, should I say, or every unit, whatever you call those 50 things. Anyway, next we've got the LKV90. Again, the LKV90, an upgrade of the Vik 40, I guess. 5 points more, but you get a lot more accuracy at 60%. The rest of the stats fairly similar. It's got a range ground range now of 1,925, and with an AP power of 3 as well, it'll be a pretty effective at kind of holding back medium tank pushes and APC. Won't be so good against heavy tanks unless you can get around the back of them, of course, but yeah, pretty nice unit. Can shoot ground, helicopters, aeroplanes. Helicopters are a really nice range for a 45 point unit. It is radar, which can be problematic, of course, as we all know, but they're going to have to send their expensive radar seed planes against 45 point units to stand a chance of taking this thing out, so that's a bit of a bonus as well. Very high rate of fire as well, especially with this AP power against medium tanks, light tanks and APCs and infantry Viking vehicles as well, and it's got some decent armor on it as well. Actually, all of that looks like a very nice unit actually for just 45 points. And the availability, let's just quickly check that out. You get 10 trains, so yeah, that's going to be one you're going to see in a lot of decks. The only downside is its radar, but at 40 points, or sorry, 45 points, let's get the right one up, at 45 points, yeah, it's going to be almost a must-have, although they're going to have some really tough choices with the Swedish support now, because they're going to have so many good units. And then we've got these two things, the Rover RBSs. You've got a Rover RBS 70 and a Rover RBS 90 as well. Now the 90 has got, you get 8 hardened or 10 trained, and the 70 you get 13 and 9, so slightly more. But again, I think for 5 points more, if we have a look at the stats, the RBS 90 is going to be the one to get. Accuracy is up from 45 to 55, which is really nice, and it's got the stabilizer to go along with it, so it can fire really quite well on the move. A really nice unit probably to bring in early game to support your infantry pushes into towns early game. This thing, fire on the move, can get up to the front, hide itself in anywhere basically, with its small size, and it's going to do very nicely for you at pinning back those helicopters with a range of 2,800. It's fast, it's not amphibious, bit of a shame, but at 35 points, I mean, you can't go wrong. It hasn't got any armor, so if it does get sniped by an artillery piece or something, then it's going to go down. But yeah, that looks like another very nice unit for the Swedish. Moving on to the new tanks, we've got 3 new tanks. We'll start off with the basic kind of medium lightish kind of tank, the STRV 105, an upgrade of the STRV 104. It's 55 points. It's got basic kind of armor, pretty basic, not the best. It's got a main gun of accuracy 70%, which is pretty good, and an AP power of 16, which is pretty good as well. Just let down really by its ability to take fire. So if you've got, so I suppose, some big tanks in front of this, then absorbing some of the shots, then I guess you could bring this one in behind them, because it has got a nice decent-ish AP power. Definitely good for holding back medium tank pushes and APCs, shooting them down. And rate of fire is not fantastic, but okay. Speed's okay, is a prototype. Yeah, pretty basic tank. But when we have a look at the others, you'll probably be more in favour of taking the others in your deck rather than this one. And one of those, the next one up really, is the STRV 103D. A nice looking tank. It's got a decent gun with a decent accuracy and an okay AP power. It's got some decent armor. It's kind of 90 points. It's the upper end of what you'd pay for a tank of this caliber, but it has got quite a high rate of fire at 15 rounds per minute, which means it's going to get a lot of shots off pretty quickly and would hold back, I guess, medium tank pushes, APCs, things like that your people are rushing you with. I've got these hidden in tree lines and stuff. It's not the fastest thing in the world. It's just an okay tank, I think, for 90 points. Now they have got a big tank now, a heavy tank. It's this guy. I mean, it looks like one of the Leopards, the Leopard 1A4. I guess that's what it's modelled on. Really, really nice tank. Not the best tank in the game by any means. It's got 19 front armour, which is really decent. Side armour in the back and the top is okay, but you definitely want this thing pointing forwards to absorb any ATGM fire and stuff, and be ready to pull it back, because although 19 is really, really good, it is a 160 point tank. It's going to get targeted for that many points, so just be ready to move it if necessary. It's got a stabilizer, very nice stabilizer, decent accuracy. Yeah, pretty nice unit all round, very high AP power, very nice tank. Definitely one to put in your Swedish decks. Moving on to the Recon, we've got the EPVB90 Recon unit. First thing you look at is the optics, of course. Very good optics. It's an upgrade of the EPVB2, whatever that's called, to 3022. That had good optics, so it's definitely up on that. It's 20 points more though. It's got this nice, well, this really nice Bofors autocannon. I mean, this is a really nice weapon with an accuracy of 60% and a stabilizer as well. So if this thing gets spotted, it can defend itself, get out of the way. It can shoot at helicopters as well. You're not going to be wanting to use this really as a front line unit, but it's got the it's got some armor, some decent armor, and it can defend itself. So if it is spotted, you do have the chance to get it out, get it repaired, and get it repositioned in another spot to continue its role as a recon vehicle. So moving on to the vehicles, and we've got a couple of new vehicles. We've got the, start with this one, the PV excuse me, the PVTP JGB RBS 56. Anti-tank weapon. It's only 35, so it's quite cheap, but it's looks very, very vulnerable, doesn't it? It's got, of course, no armor, as many of these cheap anti-tank gun weapons. Very powerful weapon, no armor, pretty much. Poor strength as well. If it gets hit, it's going to go down. Wouldn't be one of my, probably, I mean, these are the vehicles tabs, so there's often, in my decks, there's often a lot of slots open on the vehicles tabs. I tend not to take vehicles too much. This wouldn't be a one of choice for me, but if you like ATGMs, you know, for 35 points it's really cheap. I imagine you get a whole load of these things. Yeah, 13 trained and 9 hardened. No, not an amazing amount, but probably not one for me, this, but an ATGM anyway. And then we've got this vehicle, the IKV 105. Really, and kind of, I guess, I'm not sure what role you would have for this vehicle. Anti-tank, well, the AP power's only 16, but it is very cheap. It's got really poor armor. accuracy and stabilizer is pretty average. It's got a swiveling turret, so it's not really an anti-tank gun. It's kind of, I'm not sure what you would call it. It seems to be a bit of a mishmash of everything. Again, not one I would choose immediately in my deck. Maybe you would have a use for it, or put in the comments if you think it's a decent one. It doesn't look that fantastic. Not even really a spam tank at 35 points either, so not the best thing in the world. Helicopters, no new helicopters, so the Swedish still a bit lacking in helicopters just with that ITO there, but that's not one of the new units. Air though, they have got a couple of new units. They've got a really nice air superiority fighter, the A539 Griffin. Watch out for this thing. 160 points, yes, but it's got all the top armament. It's got the Amaran missiles, fire and forget, 4 of those, have it flying around at the back shooting these things off whenever anything comes into range. It's got a couple of AIM 9Ls with a decent accuracy and stabilizer as well. 1000 kilometers per hour, exceptional air detection, ECM of 40%. Very nice unit indeed. It is expensive, yeah, 160 points, but so are all the decent air superiority fighters in the game. Then we've got the A835 Lance, a very basic napalm bomber. It hasn't got any ECM, so send this only over the enemy, and if there's a couple of manpads stood somewhere in a building, it's going to go down. So just be a bit careful with this thing. It's an old one, 1955. Basically, they've got a napalm bomber now. It's not the best thing in the world, but they've got one, and it may or may not have its uses depending on the type of decks you're going to be making. And of course the naval tabs, nothing changes there. So that's about it for the Swedish deck. Some pretty nice units, especially in the support. They've got a nice new heavy tank. They've got some additions, or should I say, to the infantry. Not amazing additions, but some additions, and some additions to the logistics, which are decent. And I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be doing the other 2 countries very soon. Please do comment, like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see the other. We're doing the Danish and the Norwegians, of course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.